2006 at a Glance Special Edition December 2006 Farewell 2006. As 2006 comes to a close, we are reflective on the events taken place during the year and offer our wholehearted thanks to all of Care for Cows supporters from around the world. Together we were able to offer a home to 51 abandoned cows, bulls and calves this year. With your continued support, we are looking forward to and preparing for an even bigger year in 2007. In itself, caring for neglected, diseased and injured cows is a fulfilling, rewarding service, but it does not come without losses. In this special issue we celebrate the lives of those whom we were able to help in 2006 and remember those dear to us whom we lost. A collection of their stories follows. See you in 2007. Total saved 51 Mini Nandi Ganesh Yama Chanchala Ashvini and her mother Rohini Chandi Sneha Gulabi 1082006 ADMISSIONS 10 car accident Skori Priya Vidurtungavid Yakala Krishna Kunja Bahari Goranga Garangi Saki Vrinda Braja 2006 ADMISSIONS 10 health crisis Gopi Radhishyama Sulagrum Janardhan Karnas and Jeevani and her son Yuva Varshana Ratna Devanala Devi Kanchana 2006 ADMISSIONS all 51 homeless Subhadra Radhika Isvari Giriraj Janmastami, Pradyumna Lab Kush 2006 ADMISSIONS and 4 born at CFC Ekadashi, Padmaganda and Belvan born at CFC 2006 ADMISSIONS despite dense darkness, pouring monsoon rain and pockets of water on the road, a driver, thumb on the horn, foot to the floor, headlights on dim, sped his jeep towards Chatakara for reasons unknown. Upon penetrating a large puddle, a wave of water completely covered the windshield, blinding him further. The rain pounded hard on 2 homeless calves who scurried about in search of high ground in the dark muddy fields bordering the road. Happening upon the road, they felt relief to have found solid ground beneath their feet. However, their relief was short-lived. Before the windshield shed the water to the degree the driver could see the road, the jeep struck something and the driver pulled over to see what had happened. He sadly discovered he had hit the 2 calves. The one who took the full brunt of the impact was sent into a bulldozer parked on the side of the road, the other into the muddy field from whence she had come. In the pouring rain, the driver tried to find some shelter for the one sandwiched between impaled on the large teeth on the bucket of the bulldozer, the other, he could not find. The one lay practically lifeless enduring the heavy rain until the morning, when the driver contacted Dr. Chandrasekhar, who attended to the 8 by 6-inch gash on her back and the many other mud-filled wounds all over her body. She could not get up and could barely sit. The frantic driver, very concerned over his negligence, vowed not to eat until he had found shelter for the calf. He went to 4 nearby goshalas but none would take her in. Dr. Chandrasekhar suggested Care for Cows and the distressed driver arranged for her to be carried here by ox cart. Dr. Chandrasekhar, Dr. Karen, via email, Syamagori Dasi, Pavan, and Syamahari took up the challenge to save her. They nicknamed the calf Gulabi as she resembles Gulab, a young bull we took in last year with a broken leg. The driver of the jeep, being relieved that Gulabi was in capable hands, severe swelling, multiple lacerations, gash on leg above, broken tail below, bulldozer teeth marks on back, departed for his village to feed the brahmanas rather than offer to offset her medical expenses. But Lord Gopal, who resides within the heart of everyone, being dedicated to protecting the cows, inspired Mr. Pradipta Chatterjee and Pransvari Dasi, from different parts of the world, to contribute towards Gulabi's medical expenses and sponsor her maintenance. Upon arrival, Gulabi was completely swollen and was not comfortable in any position. After injections to relieve pain, reduce swelling and prevent infection, she experienced some relief. Besides the huge gashes on her back, other complications were deep gashes on her posterior, a broken tail, and several wounds on all 4 legs, some of which reached the bone. Our greatest concern was the blood oozing from her nose, indicating a lung injury. That was attended to first. After 12 days of intensive care, Gulabi was showing steady improvement. Please drive carefully when you come to Varaya. Her wounds were cleaned daily and she was hoisted up for a few hours to keep her legs from going numb. She had a great appetite, so we had all hoped that she would recover. After 21 days of steady improvement, Gulabi suddenly became weak and began wheezing. Her bodily temperature dropped and the flesh around her wounds turned dark. Dr. Chandrasekhar recommended a saline drip and penicillin. We administered the drip and she became very peaceful. We covered her with a blanket hoping to raise her temperature. While adjusting her pillows, we heard a rattling in her throat as she exhaled. Srimad Bhagavatam denotes this as a symptom that death is near. A few minutes after this, she peacefully departed. All of the devotees who had served her so diligently were sad that they could serve her no longer, but relieved that her suffering had ended. We immediately selected a place for her grave and offered her Ganges water, incense, Mahaprasada flower garlands and a Harinyama chatter. Gulabi wore a most peaceful gaze as she was covered with the cool sands of Raman Reddy. I wandered into what used to be a pasturing ground to discover it had become a farmer's field. I started to graze as before but was soon hacked on the back with an axe. Real hard. The farmers I used to plow for now take me for an unwanted criminal. We need shelter. Donate to the Care for Cows Land Fund. Leaf off these chariots ready for a trip to the Madura Veterinary College. During a physiotherapy session, Dr. Lavania slowly administers magnesium 4-polythene. Cow's man-made enemy tucked in for the night. Gokarna rests peacefully, an emblem of courage and determination. Gokarna has been at CFC for 9 weeks and most of that time he's been in need of medical care for various illnesses. Featuring in the August CFC newsletter with his recovery from a long night of seizures and fits, Gokarna became stronger and mobile over the next few weeks. But then one day he could not stand on his own properly and he would fall down if another calf brushed by him. Gokarna was taken to the Madura Veterinary College for a checkup and doctors suspected there were foreign objects in his rumen, most likely ingested polythene bags, that cannot be passed out of the system, and cannot break down on their own. Discarded plastic bags are a major health hazard for cows rummaging through rubbish heaps in Vrindavan. Surgery was suggested to remove the foreign objects, but it was not advisable until Gokarna recovered more strength to bear the stress of an operation. Meantime, blood tests were run and Gokarna was thereafter treated for a blood infection shown up in the test results. Dr. R.P. Pandey of Madura Vet College set up a week-long program of dextra strips, vitamin and mineral shots and digestive tonics to help Gokarna regain strength. Pavan, one of CFC medical assistants, took up the responsibility of Gokarna's full-time carer, administering his medication, assisting him while standing up 3 times a day, physio twice a day, passive exercise, massage and feeding. After the week-long effort of supportive therapy, Gokarna's condition was much the same and surgery was again deferred by his doctor. For 4 weeks Gokarna and Pavan continued with their daily routine, and Dr. Lavania took on the challenge to try and save Gokarna, coming to the Goshala almost every day to monitor and treat him. Some days Gokarna was down with fever and too weak to stand. Then other days he seemed brighter and had renewed strength and a good appetite, which gave us all hope. After 1 month of trying practically everything, and seeing Gokarna's deteriorating condition, doctors advised that he may not recover. Dr. Lavania commented that if it were not for the love and care Gokarna was receiving, he would not have made it this far. The doctor advised that now surgery was Gokarna's only chance of survival. His surgery is scheduled for early October, and meantime he's on a booster program so he will have the maximum strength for recovery. Kanchana update: though Kanchana lost her right eye, she still has some vision in the left eye which helps her immensely. Last month Kanchana was brought into Care for Cows in bad shape with a serious eye wound. Her former owner had turned her out onto the street to fend for herself when she most needed help. Unfortunately, the eyeball was completely destroyed and left her with a large, deep wound. In the CFC November news we reported how Dr. Lavania had sutured the upper and lower eyelids together and hopes were for the infection to clear as new tissue filled up the cavity. Fortunately, this is exactly what happened without any setbacks. Once the sutures were removed we continued cleaning and dressing the wound daily and were amazed at how each day the wound had changed and filled in. Once the infection completely cleared, Kanchana's wound was cleaned every alternate day to allow the tissue to grow undisturbed. Today, after 6 weeks of care, Kanchana's wound has completely closed, leaving a thin, horizontal pink line of scar tissue. Kanchana's following of concerned well-wishers' prayers were answered during the month when it became evident that Kanchana could perceive shapes and movement from her good eye that had appeared completely blind on her arrival. Hence she is happily investigating her new surroundings at CFC. October 18, 2006, Kanchana's eye wound on arrival after cleaning out maggots and dead tissue. November 9, 2006, sutures are removed and the wound continues to fill out with healthy tissue. November 27, 2006, the wound completely closed and new hair growth evident against all odds. Kala Krishna was abandoned and hit by a car in a narrow, congested street at nearby Sant Colony. He was dragged to the side of the road and there he lay for 2 weeks unable to get up as both his back legs were broken. A pujari from a nearby temple noticed him and brought him into Care for Cows. Upon arrival his wounds were cleaned and dressed, and anti-inflammatory pain relief injection administered. Wenda, a Gosevak visiting from the UK, administered rescue remedy drops to Kala Krishna for stress. That afternoon Dr. Lavania gave Kala Krishna a thorough examination and confirmed that the back left leg was not actually dislocated at the hip, but rather the bone had snapped at the hip, leaving the ball in the hip socket. His back right leg had a large infected wound at the fracture site where pieces of bone were also exposed. The doctor gave instructions on how to proceed with Kala Krishna's medical care and continues to check in on him every few days. Wenda commented that she was amazed how helpful our vet was, as in her experience many vets in the West would never even attempt to help such a case, rather they would enforce euthanasia. Once Kali Krishna's leg wound has healed, the fracture can be cast, and the hope is that this will become his stronger back leg, on which he can put some weight, which will allow us to stand him for short periods of time in the cow sling. The doctor advised that even with all going well, the other back leg may take possibly 1 to 2 years to mend. Meantime, as the days cool down in Vrindavan, Kali Krishna is getting lots of rest, massage and light physio out in the healing morning sunshine, and at night he is rugged up under a warm blanket, on a soft mattress in the recovery ward, shared with Gaurangi, who is also recuperating from a recent car accident. Kali Krishna, above right, in good company with his lookalike friend Pushpa arriving on a flatbed rickshaw, a fortnight after his accident. Kali Krishna is stressed and in pain. Sugar packed on the wound gives fantastic healing results. An old bandage is removed to reveal a badly infected wound, covered in a half-inch layer of pus dressing with a wound pad and gauze bandage. Daily wound cleaning is carried out, starting with flushing the wound with lots of diluted iodine. Antibiotic and anti-inflammatory injections are given. It is not easy to be a bull in Kali Yuga, not even for one born in Vrindavan. As I wandered in search of food, I felt invisible. No human eyes would behold me, or if they did, they wished they hadn't. I had been put on the street by an indifferent owner, and though it was tough, I somehow managed to survive despite my small stature. One day my ear was injured, and that made things more difficult, as I now not only had to battle it out for my quota of food, but I had to tolerate flies constantly swarming around my head and hundreds of maggots crawling in my ear. With blood, pus and other fluids constantly draining from my ear and matting the hair on my shoulder, I looked a mess and smelled like death personified. In this condition I started to ponder. The Vedic scriptures state that the bull is religion personified. They also say that in the present age man's good qualities diminish and consequently religious behavior is practically eclipsed. They go on to express that human intelligence degenerates and becomes covered by ignorance to the degree that religion is perceived as irreligion, and irreligion is religion. As I wandered aimlessly, it struck me that I was living proof of these statements. Out of the hundreds of people walking in slumber in the streets where I roamed, one walked with his eyes open and was shocked to see me. I had seen him before, though he had not noticed me. By his startled and clear gaze I could tell he was one who had penetrated the veneer of illusion that covers this holy place and was able to see me as an all too graphic portrait of Kali Yuga. He knew I was in trouble and was compelled to do something. A few hours later, he and 2 others loaded me on a rickshaw on Dharma's plight and took me to care for cows. When I arrived, the cowherd men approached to unload me, and though repulsed by the stench of my rotten ear and the foul discharge dried on my shoulder, they laid me down and 2 of them started cleaning my wound while others brought disinfectant and other medical necessities. While 4 hands picked the maggots out of my ear, several fingers combed through my coat to find thousands of feasting ticks. It had been a while since they had seen such a sad case. After patching me up, they scrubbed me thoroughly and let me eat to my full satisfaction. Above you can see by the healing that has taken place, that I am in good hands. Now I am evidence that some places are keeping Kali Yuga at bay. The holy Dhamma. Dr. Lavania removes dead tissue from Karna's wound infested with maggots and ticks. Karna receives medical treatment, a relieving bath, and then a big breakfast. Remember Karna? Karna's dead ear was hanging on by only a few threads of skin. CFC staff remove maggots and dead tissue in the first cleaning. A quickly disappearing wound. Karna featured in last month's CFC newsletter describing his plight out on the streets where he suffered with a rotten, maggot-infested ear. 4 weeks on, his wound has almost completely healed and he's living a new life at Care for Cows, on a healthy diet and in good company. He loves human interaction and is a model patient. Peaceful and gentle by nature, Karna affectionately licks whoever comes to spend some time with him. Our last issue showed Braja upon his arrival, his left front leg broken and bent outwards at almost a 90-degree angle. The broken leg, being shorter than the other, caused his shoulder to droop and his spine to twist, which in time promised to develop into further and more serious complications. Dr. Lavania worked for 3 hours to straightening the leg, using local anesthesia, and fashioning a bamboo cast to hold it in the proper position. He mentioned that the muscles required to lift and swing the broken leg forward had become atrophied since they had not been used for months, and that we should massage the shoulder twice a day with our Gavasati healing oil. After the cast was fit, Braja walked even more awkwardly as his muscles were not working and he could now only drag his leg. Daily massage and exercise for the past 20 days have revived his shoulder muscles, which he is using to lift and move his front leg forward as he walks, much better than when he first arrived. Within the next 2 weeks we should be able to remove his cast and hopefully applaud a restored limb. Meantime, Braja is eating and resting well and enjoying all the extra attention as he recuperates. Look who's walking. PVC cast works. In the CFC February newsletter we wrote about Braja, who was found in the busy Radha Raman temple area using his fractured leg, bent at 90 degrees, as a support to help him walk about and find food. Upon arrival at Care for Cows, Braja's leg was straightened and set in a bamboo splint and plaster cast by the vet. He advised that because the ends of the fractured bones had already sealed over, they would not mend together, but that the tissue surrounding the area would eventually become hard and strong enough to support the fracture site to some extent. However, this could take up to a year, with multiple casts. As time passed by, Braja was showing discomfort using his cast leg, so the cast was removed and upon inspection revealed that his skin was irritated and bleeding, see above photo. Now to treat his skin, his leg had to remain without a plaster cast for a few days, and by the end of the time his leg was slowly bending back out of shape. It also turned out that Braja was an unruly and aggressive patient, who took most of the cow herd men together to corner and catch every time his leg needed attention. Distressing it was, to think that Braja would have to suffer so many cast changes like this over such a long time frame. When Braja's skin healed, his leg was set in a plaster cast for the second time, and soon with the arrival of summer he again showed signs of discomfort. Again his cast was removed to reveal the same type of skin problem as before. It so happened that Dr. Karen from Australia arrived at Care for Cows, and we asked her if she could think of an alternative way to help Braja. A PVC cast will suit him, she said, and gave us a simple list of materials to collect so she could make it ready. Wonders for Braja. The PVC cast consists of suitable width and length of PVC pipe. In Braja's case we used a 3-inch wide diameter pipe, judged to fit around the width of his knee, which was the widest part of his leg to be included in the cast, and the length required was about 1 foot. Cotton wool, gauze bandage, magic tape, Elastoplast self-adhesive bandage. For the assembly, Dr. Karen first cut the PVC pipe in half lengthwise, as it was only required to fit around the back portion of Braja's leg. This also gave us an identical spare cast which could be prepared in advance for quick cast changing. After the cut edges were smooth, she padded the inside and edges of the cast with a width of cotton wool, filling out the areas where the thinner part of his leg would go, wrapped a gauze bandage over that a couple of times, and taped it all in place. When Braja's skin had healed and he was ready for the new cast, Dr. Karen chose an opportune time when he was peacefully sitting in his favorite spot, ruminating, to casually sidle up to him, cast hidden behind her back, and gave his tummy a rub. Stretching out full length on the dusty ground in great delight, Braja became oblivious to the fact that 2 cowherd men had moved in to secure him in position. As they continued to rub his tummy, crafty Dr. Karen fixed the cast behind his outstretched leg, tightened it very snugly in place, and fixed it top and bottom with a strip of elastoplast, half stuck on the cast and half on his leg. It was all over before he even knew it. That was the middle of May, and over time we are seeing the advantages of this new PVC cast are vast, offering the same support as the previous plaster cast, but without the side effects over long-term use. Now his cast is removed for 24 hours once every 10 days, allowing air to circulate and keep his skin healthy. It is lightweight, comfortable, and is easily changed whenever it gets wet. A new cast can be assembled and fixed within 10 minutes, including a complimentary tummy rub, and minimum stress to Braja. Third time lucky. Tunga Vidya, relaxed and content at Care for Cows. Over the last couple of months, a brown calf with an abnormal back leg was sighted time and again out on the streets. Care for Cows sent out men twice to find the calf but came back empty-handed on both occasions, as she was nowhere to be found. But third time lucky, the elusive calf was found and brought in from Vidyapita. She had sustained a fracture to her back leg a long time ago, most likely from a car accident, and without medical care it had healed abnormally. The vet was called to check her over and advised that the fracture was an old case and a cast would not work for her because the bones were already fixed apart by fibrous tissue. Otherwise she was healthy and could manage getting around on her own without any pain. She instantly fit in at Care for Cows and quickly became a favorite due to her peaceful and self-satisfied nature. She is no trouble and remains free to wander in the main front yard with the other recuperating calves, and as she grows up she will always have a special place to stay separate from the main herd. She has been named Tunga Vidya. While walking sometimes the limb bends in. Tunga Vidya's fractured back leg healed on its own without the bones connecting. Now the bone ends have sealed over, and are held apart by fibrous tissue, and sometimes it bows out. A stretch bandage supports the leg to some extent. Last month Van Krishna's wound remained infection-free and terrific results were seen in its healing. As his wound remained clean with very little or no discharge, wound cleaning was reduced to every second day, which brought about an encouraging surprise every time his stump was unwrapped, as we all gasped in excitement to see the obvious and positive changes. New skin continues to grow, much faster than reported in the last newsletter, and the area to cover has reduced dramatically. We are thrilled with his wound progress, and if you like, you can take a look for yourself on the following page. Sivan Krishna's rear side stump view, June 2, 2006. Inner side stump view, June 2, 2006. Outer side stump view, June 2, 2006. Rear side stump view, June 9, 2006. Inner side stump view, June 9, 2006. Outer side stump view, June 9, 2006. Rear side stump view, June 28, 2006. Inner side stump view, June 28, 2006. Outer side stump view, June 28, 2006. Wound unwrapped. Jula, young cow from a Varshana dairy, was impregnated early and developed some complications which caused a vaginal prolapse. As the dairymen were unwilling to fund the necessary medical expenses required, she was left in a precarious condition too long. When she arrived at Care for Cows, the prolapse tissue was maggot-infested and infected. Dr. Lavania manually replaced the prolapse, sutured the vulva and prescribed a course of antibiotics. Some time later the sutures were removed, and after 4 weeks of treatment the infection finally cleared. She will live at Care for Cows now and has been named Varshana Ratna, the jewel of Varshana. The prolapsed tissue, free of maggots but still covered in spots of infection and dead tissue. Dr. Lavania replaces the prolapse, which would be pushed out again within minutes without suturing. Suturing the vulva prevents a reoccurrence of the vaginal prolapse. Sugar mixed in an ointment base is pasted onto the wounds from Varshana. Syringes of diluted iodine flush deep inside to clean the infected tissue. Unpasteurized honey is then syringed in to coat the tissue and aid in fast healing. Those loved and lost. Gokarna, a long-term patient passed. Rohini's premature calf passed away 2 days after birth. Away early October. Gokuli died of infections 24 hours after her arrival. Street Bulb with us for 24 hours died of heat stroke. Gulabi passed away at 21 days after a serious car accident. Garangi, one of the odd couple, passed away in August. Nandi was killed in a bullfight on the street in March. Purna Nandini, Nandi's daughter, died of pneumonia. Syama peacefully passed away at a ripe old age. 2006. Hi. My name is Gopi. When I was admitted to Care for Cows I was severely malnourished, covered with mange and completely depressed. They put me on a 4-month beautifying program and just see the transformation. Thanks to all of you for helping. Gopi is sponsored by Raj Kaliyura Manor, USA. Contributors to Gopi's lifelong maintenance fund are Christopher Lutz, Shyama Deshan Poppet, USA, Care for Cows INVRINDA via NA.